Why hello, reader friends, it's Cassie, and it's that time of the month again, the time where I go through all the books I read in the month and tell you what the heck it is I read. So let's jump right into it and get started. So the first book I read in the month of May was actually an audiobook, and it was Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. But I did actually really enjoy this. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I mean, I had kind of been expecting and been told to expect, like, you know, don't think outside the box on this one. It is literally a murder on a train. And I'm kind of glad I knew that ahead of time, because really the whole book took place on the Orient Express. So essentially it's exactly what it sounds. Our detective Hercule Poirot is on this train. He's on a trip. He is an investigator. And as an investigator, when a gentleman suddenly turns up murdered, his friend, one of the directors of the company, comes to him and enlists his help in solving a murder. In doing so, he starts to unravel this strange story that has to do with a kidnapping in the past and all kinds of stuff, and it's kind of a neat tale. I did really enjoy it, and the details and stuff. All the chapters were laid out pretty basic. It was like, you know, character A's statement, and the chapter would literally be that character giving their statement to this little group of self-claimed investigators. So it was kind of cool in that sense. It was a little bit different than what I'm used to reading, where it's usually a little bit more, you know, following leads and stuff. But as it all takes place on a train, there isn't really a chance to follow many leads or go somewhere and talk to someone. I kind of started to suspect it when I got closer to the end, so it wasn't like a shock when it happened. But I still thought it was really good. I still thought there was a lot of elements to throw you off and kind of twists in the beginning. It's not so much building up mystery, it's kind of laying out an interesting case sort of thing. So I did enjoy it. I do want to read more of it, but this won't be everyone's cup of tea, especially if you're looking for like a riveting, suspenseful murder mystery. This just isn't going to be it. The second book I read in the month of May was Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I kind of have differing thoughts on it. Part of me understands what it was going for, but the vibes I got from it story-wise were very similar to The Perks of Being a Wallflower, to be honest. Like, that's what I took from it. Like, a quite similar story, but I kind of got the same vibes from this. However, I did not like the main character in this. Someone had told me from the beginning, like, this was a good book, but you should read it when you're in a teenage angsty mood. And within like 5 pages, I completely understood what they were talking about, because this character is so whiny, and his attitude about everything is just like, I don't care. The character really turned me off for this, and I wanted to stop reading it at a lot of times just because I could not stand the main character. And I mean that 100% seriously. It really was like the epitome of teenage angstiness, and just some of the tangents and rants he went off in, I was like, I really don't care. And to be honest, I don't think for me it would have made a difference if I had read this while I was in a teenage angsty mood or not. You know, I went into it kind of open-minded, and I still didn't like this one. The third book I read in the month of May was The Witches of New York. I just got really good spring vibes from just the cover alone. And I think it's because of like all these like bright flowers, and I don't know, I just like the little scenery and stuff. So I thought I would give this a read, and I did really enjoy it. It's about a young girl who kind of has an obsession with documenting and collecting articles and stuff about just strange occurrences. And she's noticing an increase in these occurrences. She sees an ad in the paper for a little tea shop in New York that basically says, like, if you are adverse to witches or magic, you know, don't even bother applying. And during the cause of that, she runs into some things that essentially give her a touch of magic, and she soon finds herself experiencing things and dealing with this whole underground sort of lifestyle, hidden lifestyle of like witchcraft. It is kind of this mysterious element going on with trying to find someone who seems to be hunting witches or their kind in New York. The fourth book I read in the month of May was Six of Crows, and this is, I think, by far my favorite book I read this month. This actually went immediately onto my favorite shelves. But I loved this. I had been concerned, and I'd kind of been putting it off because I knew it was a spin-off of the Grisha trilogy, and I haven't read the Grisha trilogy. So, you know, I saw a lot of people asking all the time, like, do you have to read the Grisha trilogy? And a lot of people that I saw on BookTube had read the Grisha trilogy. They say you didn't have to, but you know, sometimes people say that and that's not exactly the case. But I am happy to report you don't have to read the Grisha trilogy to understand this. It kind of explains the whole world on its own, but it mostly focuses on a group of 6 young criminals who undergo a heist to break into an impenetrable area to kidnap someone and bring them back for riches and fame. I really enjoyed the characters in this. I really enjoyed how every character in this had a backstory. It wasn't like just like your 2 main characters or whatever had a backstory. Everyone had a backstory, and it's slowly released and very well written in small segments and small snippets of thoughts and flashbacks and that sort of thing. So I really did enjoy this, and I've actually already bought the sequel to this. That being said, I definitely recommend Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo if you have not read it yet. So the next book I read is actually another audiobook, and that was Mallory Blackman's Knots and Crosses. And I actually really enjoyed this novel. I wasn't sure what to think about it, but it is essentially taking place in a parallel universe where, as in our universe, we had in the past black slavery and there's segregation and there's still fights over equality between black and white people. The same applies here. However, the roles are reversed. In their history, whites used to be slaves, and they're still fighting segregation in the midst of this novel, but also this deal with equality. So this book basically is, as you could probably guess from that, you've got a white character and a black character, or a cross, which is the black character, and the knots, which are the white characters. And they're kind of in this universe where they're fighting. They want to be together and they love each other, but there's so many things in their way that it's kind of, how can they when everyone in society and everything in society seems to be against them? So it kind of addresses some hot topics. I do like it. It was a little bit more conscious. My only complaint about this is that Sephi, who is our female cross character, is kind of an airhead. She's a little bit too dumb to live. She is slow on the uptake for every single thing that happens, every plan, every incident. She's like, well, I didn't see it happening. And it's kind of like, really? The rest of us saw it a mile away. So, I don't know. I feel like she was kind of a character that was too dumb to live, but I felt it was done in a sense so that we get a real contrast between the different lifestyles of our characters, because Callum's life was gritty and powerful, and it was a struggle compared to Sephi's, and I think that was intentional, but I think she maybe took it a little bit to the extreme. That's how I felt about that one, but I did really enjoy it. It didn't quite make the favorites list, but I definitely would give it a solid 4.5 stars. The last book I read in the month of May was one that has also been sitting on my shelf for a while. Are you seeing a trend here? And that is The Silkworm by Robert Galbraith. I really enjoy the Cormoran Strike novels. I'm actually currently reading the latest one that is out, which is The Career of Evil. This is the second installment in the Cormoran Strike novels. The first one was A Cuckoo's Calling. If you don't know, Robert Galbraith is a pseudonym for J.K. Rowling. So these books are by J.K. Rowling, and I'm a little bit surprised by that, honestly, because obviously everyone knows Harry Potter. I was really surprised by this and the series in general. She seems to weave like a really good murder mystery sort of novel. I was really surprised. It's really well detailed. The characters are great. You have Cormoran Strike, who's a private detective, and his temporary secretary, Robin Ellicott. And the first book, it's kind of like she's mistakenly sent to his office, but she's always wanted to be like a private detective. So she ends up working these cases with Cormoran Strike, who starts to gain a little bit of fame, and they're finding a little bit more difficulties because they've kind of pissed off the cops who wrote off the murder he solved in the first book as a suicide. So this is kind of him trying to solve another case, but he no longer really has the connections he had because he's kind of pissed them off, and also more and more people are starting to recognize him, sort of thing. So it was just a good murder mystery, and in both of these books now, I have to say I was not really expecting the killer to be who it was. So that definitely held true through this one as well. If you've read this, I hope I'm not the only one in thinking it was another author who I thought had done it. If you haven't read this, that means nothing to you. If you have, you may or may not agree. Let me know down below if you've read this, if you thought that too. So that was my May wrap up. If you enjoyed this or if you read any of these books, well, let me know what you thought down below. I mean, did you like Catcher in the Rye? Did you get the Perks of Being a Wallflower vibes that I did? Let me know. And until then, I will see you guys later. Bye.